Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my man Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And it is Monday in the NBA with a nice little 8-game slate to kick off your work week here. In this one, we're taking a look at a couple of Eastern Conference foes. The Raptors are playing host to the wicked hot Boston Celtics. Also got another game video and our player props up for you, so make sure to like and subscribe. Continue to follow along with us. Also want you to head to thelines.com. We've got all of our great written content up there. Nate puts all the picks up there as well. And we have our odds finder tool within all those articles. You can go ahead and make sure you're getting the best juice back from all the books that you may be using here to get these NBA bets in. Nate, let's go ahead and get into this 8-game slate and then talk C's and Raps.
Yeah, this first game, the Clippers are -4 now at Charlotte. I was telling you last night, -2, hit that right away. Clips starting to get a little healthier and got to trust them to beat basically a tanking team. Then we got the Bucks -10 at Orlando. Thunder +6 at the Hawks. The Heat are now +1 at Memphis. Memphis on a back-to-back. We're going to talk about that game in the other video. Sixers -7.5 at the Rockets. The Suns +3 at the Mavs. Always a fierce game when those two meet. And then the Warriors are on a back-to-back as well with the Pacers, who are +11 in Golden State. Total of 236 there. So the Celtics +1 now at Toronto. It was -1, I think, when it opened, but it's going to hover right around there at even money. Basically, it's a test. Do you believe the Celtics can just continue to win on back-to-backs, can continue to win in all circumstances? And I'm going to say, like, if you just want to close your eyes and click Celtics the rest of the way, you're probably going to win money. And if you bet on this one and it goes awry, like, stick with it. Like, trust the process. You're betting on the superior team. Look, they've won 15 of their last 17, of course. It's like, well, do they cover? Yeah, they've covered in 11 of their last 12 wins, and there's no spread to cover here. It's just beating the Raptors. And the Raptors have some real deficiencies, man. I mean, if they're not scoring off turnovers, if they're not scoring in the open floor, they suck. They're 30th in half-court offense efficiency, right? And they make up for it with offensive rebounding and by forcing turnovers, like I said. But the Celtics are the 7th best in both those categories in terms of limiting their own turnovers and allowing O-reaps. And they're allowing the 5th fewest fast break points as well. And, I mean, they have Toronto's number. It's like Toronto, how do they usually beat teams? Again, swarming them, forcing turnovers because they have this superior size on the wing. Well, you don't have that against Boston. They've lost 6 of their last 7 against Boston. The one time they beat them, yes, it was a back-to-back, but yes, Boston sat JT, Jalen, and Al Horford along with they had nobody out there basically, and they still only lost by 3. So they covered, I think, in that loss. You look at the wins. Boston's offense is lighting up this pretty formidable Toronto defense. 118 points per game, hitting 14 threes at 40%. That's their MO on the season. They shoot 40% home, road, from 3, hit about 17 threes per game, get great looks against anybody except the Miami Heat, who were able to kind of mix it up in that second matchup. We were just one game early on the hot Heat take there that Miami was going to cover, maybe win, because Jimmy played in that second one, as we kind of looked at. But, I mean, Nick Nurse is a great coach. Eric Spoelstra is a great coach. They both can mix it up like that with their defensive schemes. But I just don't think that Boston's going to be as taken aback the way they were when Miami would switch from zone to man, when they would blitz them and go three-quarter court, like throwing the kitchen sink. And that was all just to get into a close game with Boston. And Boston a lot better in the clutch than Toronto. You look at Toronto's numbers at home, and they are impressive, 9-2 straight up. But when they're dogs, they're 3-8 overall, regardless of venue, versus 9-3 as favorites. They're 1-4 in division games in this really tough division right now. I just look at how Boston's been able to carve them up. 55 assists in their last 2 wins against Toronto, shot 53% from the floor. Again, those were both in Boston. They haven't really played at Toronto in a real situation in years now, because their 2021 game, no fans in the arena still, or it was in Florida. I don't even know which one, but it wasn't a real home game for Toronto. And the atmosphere will be there. I just don't think Toronto has the offensive firepower to match this team right now, as long as, you don't get Tatum resting or anything. But there is a chance Marcus Smart plays after sitting on Sunday with like a hip contusion. So maybe you get one guy sit, but you get Marcus Smart back in there, and that Celtics wing and backcourt is just so deep right now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, especially because Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon are both playing so well for this team. Like, they're just a never-ending bench of quality, quality wings and guys who play really well with the ball in their hands and without it. Like, this is a wonderful roster. Brad Stevens, really good coach. Really, really good GM, and that's really what's being the difference is for them this season, obviously. And then obviously, Tatum and Brown, I would say stepped it up a notch. I do want both of them to play for me to feel good about this game. I don't really want to watch either of them sit out, to be honest with you. I think in the as far as the Raptors are concerned, they're missing a few guys, and honestly, some guys that would probably help them on the wing as well, with some size in terms of Juancho and Otto Porter. Precious Achua could take it or leave it, as obviously Rob Will's still not playing. But either way, I think for Boston, what's interesting is that they're doing. They miss Rob Will, but they still are really good on defense in the key areas that they need to be able to hang with the Raptors. When you look at, as you said, the Raptors, number one in points off turnovers, number one in fast break points. They're also number one in second chance points. So their set offense is bad. That's not how they score. As you mentioned, it's the worst in the league. And the reason that they're 8-3 at home this season is because of the fact that they're number one in those key categories right there, all key transition points categories, or second chance points, where it doesn't take any offensive scheme to grab an offensive rebound, kick it out to a wide open three, and get that ball up for second chance points. Boston, like we said, though, that everything you would expect them. Look, they're not the same defensive team that they will be when Rob Williams comes back, in part because they need to, they know that they can't just sell out on 3-pointers. They can't just sell out on their guy. They don't have a rim protector. If they don't want to give up a layup, they kind of have to stay home and keep their feet on the ground rather than jump up and contest too many shots or go for steals and things of that nature. So their defense isn't quite as swarming as it was last season, because they don't have that protection behind them. As soon as that guy's back in the lineup, that defense is going to take it up a notch for sure. Either way, the defense right now is doing what it can without the same height and rim protection as Rob Will, by getting, limiting points off of turnovers, controlling what they can, limiting you getting points on offensive rebounds and fast break points. So if they can just get back on defense, they say, then they'll be fine. And that's been the case this season. They're winning games because while they're getting out on transition and they're getting points off of turnovers, or just really keeping guys from being able to get back, keeping the defense from being able to get back behind their transition offense, as they have so many transition points this season. Like I said, they're controlling what they can without a true center in there at any point. Sans Papa Al, who's 4-5, whatever you have you. So I think all that said, like it's Toronto at home. It's a different team. The fact that they do have Siakam back makes you feel pretty good about it. If the Celtics have to lose at some point, and it's probably going to be on this road trip, as this is an absolutely ridiculous gauntlet of games that they have. They went Nets last night. They got the Raptors tonight. Then the 2 nights from now, they have the Suns. 3 nights, the Warriors. 2 nights later, the Clips, and then a back-to-back Lakers after that Clippers game. And by the way, the Lakers are good now. I don't know if you're paying attention, or at least they're better than the bottom half of the league. Let's put it that way. Once you beat the Wizards on the road, you're now like at least the 14th best team in the league, because the Wizards are perpetually the 15th best team in the league. So at any rate, they're good now. This is going to be a ridiculous road trip for them. And if you look at how they did, how they're doing on the road this season, they're playing just as well, to be honest, as they are at home. They're pretty much just a consistent team. When they're at the Garden, look, they're pretty much unbeatable right now. Is it still called the Garden? Whatever it is, the TD said, yeah. When they're there, when they're in Boston, they're pretty much unbeatable right now. On the road, they're still a better than 500 team and beating teams by an average of about 5 points a game in that stretch. So I think that this is going to be the test for them, as we say. This is the beginning of the test for them. I don't love picking against the Raptors at home, but right now, like you got to keep going with what's working. In the stats that I'm looking at that matter to me is say that Boston's going to be able to limit what Toronto does, and nobody has come close to limiting what Boston does yet this season. So why would I start picking against their offense right now?
They come close, but they just grinded out a win anyway against the Nets, right? Forced KD into 7 turnovers. He's the hottest mid-range player on the planet right now. And what do you got, Raptors? You got Pascal Siakam, who's, coming back, but like we said, not scoring in the half court. You talked about that Celtics defense ramping up when Rob Will gets back, but they've actually just been great lately, regardless. In their last 6, 110 points per game. Last 3, limiting these key areas that we talk about. 10 fast break points. That's 5th best. Again, 7th worst assist to turnover ratio for opponents. Fewest free throws per game allowed. And on the road in general, number 3 in 2-point percentage. So they're going to try to make the Raptors beat them from deep. I don't know. When you look at the total, there's a lot of conflicting numbers to look at here. Yeah. First and foremost, that Toronto plays at a pace 4 possessions slower at home. That the Celtics do go under at home, but the back-to-back numbers are interesting here. Boston's 4-0 to the back-to-back this year, also 4-0 to the over, and they lost 4 of their last 5 back-to-backs last year, but those all 5 went over, including this one with Toronto, which totaled 240. So, with the Celtics right now, I talk about clicking their money line or their spread every time. If you also just click the over every time, I think you're probably in pretty good shape the way they've been shooting. But I'm not as sure because just like we're scared of Toronto at home, also scared of this game getting bogged down in the weeds the way Toronto can't score that much. And they can maybe muck it up the same way Miami did. But by the numbers, they have no rim protection either. You talk about Rob Will out. They are giving up the 4th most paint points right now. Boston. I'm sorry, in their last 3 games. Yeah. Since getting Siakam back, they got that win over Cleveland, and then in their last 3, the defense has been rough. The offense has also been rough. They're only hitting 9 threes at 30%. But they're 22nd in 3-point defense, 22nd in assisted field goal, and those are the 2 key things for the Boston Celtics, right? Is they're going to move the ball and they're going to get their shots. And so, that's what we lean on here. It's just the Celtics being a little bit better than you. And I'm glad you mentioned that schedule because they can't afford to just say like, all right, we'll lose this one and then we're home against Orlando. You're not home against Orlando for 5 more games, and we saw the Celtics and Tatum go on this West Coast road trip a couple of years ago and just be like, whatever, we're just going to win every game. We're going to go hard every game. I think that was the case last season when they were red hot too. I don't think they're going to be taking nights off here, so I trust them on a back-to-back.
Yeah, I don't think they will either. There's no. How do you find a trap game when it's Nets at Raptors, Suns, Dubs, Clips, Lakers? There's no trap game in there. Maybe the Clippers. This would be it. But it's an Eastern Conference foe, and it's a game that it's a little bit closer to home for them as well. They're not traveling quite as far as when they're about to go to Phoenix in between the 5th and the 7th of this month. So I think the other thing you mentioned though, they're limiting those transition points in their last 3 because they're playing the Heat twice and the Nets once, and neither of those teams are looking to fast break, so they're going to need to get back, but they've done that all season, so I'm not going to start getting worried about it now just because the Raptors are that good at it. I'm totally fine with it. That said, to add to the point, I don't know if Toronto can really just keep up with this team. When you start talking about the total and 227.5, I think that this you lean, like you said, you go over in a Celtics game right now before you go under, because even if the Celtics are playing pretty good defense, they're putting up 110 points tonight, I think we can feel pretty confident about that. 115 gets you there. So if they're winning this game, right, and it takes 115 to win it tonight, the way that they're playing offense, I think the Raptors can come along. I do, I'm not worried about the Celtics' ability to guard in transition. As I said, they're a top 5, top 10 defense in transition this season in all those key categories. But it's the Raptors at home, and they might come out firing a little bit better on offense, as their numbers do tend to be a little bit better at home in all their key categories for them. And we talk about transition offense and the like, but also some of their shooting numbers as well, a bit better at home than on the road, which leads you to at least hope for a bit more offense here. Their defense is also better at home as well, but this is one for the Celtics. I'm going to keep betting in this situation until we see something to prove otherwise. Maybe we'll talk differently about it when they take on the Suns, and there's got to be another season loss in here somewhere, but we'll let you know when we feeling that. So
this one also +1 for Miami at Memphis. total of 224. Memphis flew back from Detroit after winning last night. So they are in the back-to-back situation that we often see here on a Monday. Gonna be a little concerned about how they might play, that they haven't been playing well on back-to-backs this year. Last year, of course, they were great. They're great in every situation. And they're great at home. I mean, but I think this is more to do with Miami. And just like we both say, like, we don't like trying to predict the Heat as a general rule, because it's just so hard to – how do you, like, list stats for give a shit? Like, what is their give a shit factor? How many guys are actually going to play? Are they going to play hard? Does Jimmy Butler want this game? I mean, we saw on Friday that he absolutely wanted it. Everybody did, with Jimmy and the boys, as we like to say. Really wanted that statement win in Boston, and they got it in his return. He's still questionable, along with like 5 other guys, because the Heat will always rest people on the road. And you look at their schedule beyond this. I mean, they go to Detroit tomorrow night. They're back home against Detroit tomorrow night. Yeah. They have a cupcake basically every single game through Christmas after this. So it's just, I think if you're betting on Memphis, it's first and foremost saying, like, the Heat don't really care about this game. It's a non-conference game. It is in no way a statement. And they suck on the road this year because they generally don't care that much. They know they can just go back home, roll all these teams that they big brother, like the Pacers and the Hawks and whoever they have on the schedule coming up. But yeah, against the West, they're slightly above 500 since the start of last season. Slightly below the spread in terms of negative 0.3 covering. So it's, again, inconsistent. But on the road this season, they've been consistently bad. Like I said, like 3-8 straight up, shooting 4 percentage points worse than at home. Turnover rate 2% higher. Offensive rating 6 points worse. Like, pick a stat, they're definitely worse on the road. And Memphis, great at home. They'd won like 17 of 19 home games in recent memory, and they've won 4 of their last 5, aside from that rivalry game with Minnie that, yes, we got wrong there, but that was on the road. Come back home, handle the Sixers. I mean, they're so young, Memphis, so that I don't think you worry that much about the back-to-back situation. Like, Ja played 35 minutes yesterday, but he'll be up for this game. He'll be just fine. I mean, and that Heat backcourt, you either have an ancient Kyle Lowry or you have a Tyler Hero, who maybe is among the worst defenders in the league individually. They rested Steven Adams, so he'll be out there to bang with Bam and help them get that rebounding advantage, which has been so key when they're at home. Rebounds, points in the paint, and now they have Jaren Jackson Jr. limiting shots in the paint. And Miami has just not been consistent from the three-point line on the road, like we said. So I definitely think Memphis, the spread shrinking down to almost a pick 'em. I feel fine taking them here. I mean, maybe you even want to look at an alternate spread, because it's either like Miami's going to grind and really try to win this game, or they're just going to say fuck it and then just lose by 10 and get ready for their easy schedule coming up.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's not too many games I love picking tonight. I do agree with you. Just as you were kicking off the video, the Hornets are not trying to win. Last night it was a -2 spread for the Clippers, so that could be a little bit of an easier game if you feel it. I still say, with all those guys out for the Clips, it's a decent slate tonight in terms of like good matchups. Like, it's not like there's these clear wins across the board that you can feel super confident about. There's some pretty evenly matchup teams here, and this one somewhat included, but I think you've got the advantage with Memphis. The only thing working against them is the back-to-back, but like you said, Ja Morant is completely fine at the ripe young age of like 24. He'll be completely fine playing tonight. And like you said, there's not going to be anybody to stay in front of Ja, as if there was anyway. There's extra nobody to stay in front of Ja tonight. So I think in this one, you're looking at Memphis at home, right, and Miami on the road, and you can feel good about both of the contrasting numbers there. I will say Steven Adams being in there is huge as well. He did not play last night so that he could play tonight. In the 6 games that he's played versus Bam, he's allowed Bam to score 8 points, get 5 boards, and 2 assists on 47% shooting. Bam's only played about 22 minutes per game. He's had 2 fouls in the first half of all those games. So, yeah, Steven Adams is a problem. And in wins this season, Memphis is getting more rebounds, limiting their opponent's rebounds to the tune of like a difference of like 8 boards a game or so. So, yeah, it's important for them, right? For Memphis, that's how they get second chance points. That's how they get Ja out on the break. They're able to get more turnovers because they can, sort of crowd their offenders a little bit more because they have Steven Adams, the strongest man to ever play basketball, standing in the paint back there. So I think there's reason to feel good about their defense at home as well. And another reason we hate picking Miami, they're a 3-point shooting team. So there's volatility all over the place all of the time. And they this season, they're actually down a bit in 3-point attempts, mostly because Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson have both been out for long stretches of time this season, which has definitely impacted the amount of threes they're taking. Yet they're still 8th in field goal attempt percentage of their attempts from 3. Only 24th in 3-point percentage, though, are they this season. So, right, like they're not shooting well because they're still playing the same style of offense without their 2 best 3-point shooters in Tyler and Duncan Robinson. So, they've been a little bit better since Hero's been back in their last 5 as well, including that victory against the C's. But they played the Wizards twice, the Celtics twice, and the Hawks once. The Hawks are kind of reeling right now. The Wizards are what they are. So I don't know how much you believe in what Miami's been doing over their last 5. Is they're still, not passing the ball well. And they are getting to the free throw line, which is something crucial for them. But Memphis does, limits free throw attempts really, really well, including when Steven Adams is out there, obviously a little bit better as well. So, I don't like as much the defense for Memphis at home. I should add 10 percentage points better against the 3-pointer when they're at home. Memphis only allows teams to shoot 30% from 3 at home. That's second best in the league. When they're on the road, they allow teams to shoot 40% from 3. So that's huge. Obviously, once again, in Miami has been is not limiting offensive rebounds. That's what Memphis does. They get second chance points. So it's just a lot of things that as this even goes down to a pick 'em, I continue to like the Grizz even more, especially at home, covering the way that they are. I don't care about the 0-2 on no rest this season. They got smacked in the 3rd game of the season by 41 against Dallas. Throw that one away. I don't really care. And then they only lost to the C's by 3, by the way, the best team in the league, and covered in that game at home on the second leg of that back-to-back earlier this season as well. So I'm not taking too much into account there. They play well against the East. There's just a lot to like for Memphis in a situation that seems like it should be a really close game, but I expect them to win by a solid 4 or 5 points at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they have won 4 of the last 5 against Miami. The exception was actually at home, and they were just kind of beat up down low. Miami shot 52%. Memphis shot 36% from the floor. So that Miami defense is scary, man. But the Memphis defense is scary too. And while they've gone over in 7 of their last 9 meetings, I'm really not seeing a lot of high totals here. It's kind of like the line was set at like 208 and they barely went over. And so tonight at 224, if you expect Miami to bring it with the defense, look, they were about to hold Boston. They were about to have 217 right before Jalen banked that in, and it went to overtime on Friday night. So that defense is for real. The Memphis defense that you mentioned, for real at home. But the volatility in Miami, yeah, I mean, they might just not show up. So it is tough to bet an over or under in that situation. I think you look at the numbers, though, versus non-conference numbers. Again, yeah, like I said, what Miami does against the West, it's pretty inconsistent, but they've lost 3 of their last 4 against the West. And Memphis, 7 of their last 10, winning by 5 points per game in their last 5, in particular against the East, 4-1 with a plus 7.5 net. But they're scoring 120 points per game. Number 1 in rebounding rate, though. That's the key thing if you want them to win. You got to rebound against Miami. And yeah, I mean, getting to the free throw line, you mentioned as well. Miami gave up 28 free throws to Boston in that last one, showing some signs of weakness there. So I think Memphis will have an edge there at home with the whistle. I mean, they rarely lose at home. I think they will be far more geared up for this game than Miami will be.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to at this point in the season. And if you're going to give up 5 less made threes a game at home, does Memphis, right? 10 threes made a game at home. Good for, once again, good for second best in the league. 15 made threes on the road. So also the turnovers, Miami's turning the ball over a couple more times at home. You cannot do that not against either of these teams. You can't turn the ball over. Miami's not wonderful in transition, but if you do turn the ball over against them, then they will score off of that to the tune of the fifth best in the league. Same thing for Memphis, though. If you turn the ball over against them, as Miami does at home, then Memphis is going to go out and run, as we know, liking to get out in transition and get points off turnovers, et cetera. So both you really can't turn the ball over, and you got to rebound. And Memphis does that way better at home. Miami does it way worse on the road. Just seems like a pretty opportune matchup here for that. So, Nate, let's go ahead and get into your first play a prop for the night.
Yeah, I mean, how do you attack this 76ers defense with speed? Jalen Green, one of the quickest, twitchiest athletes in the league today, and the youngsters at home tonight. So I like him to be scoring against the slower Sixers that have a 112 defensive rating on the road versus 108 at home. His prop is at 21.5 points, and you're not really getting much value on the points. You are getting a lot of value on 3 3-pointers made, plus 125 at DraftKings. And as a lot of young players have huge home road splits for Jalen this season, shooting 51, 41, and 83 at home versus 37, 29, 76 on the road, scoring 5 more points per game at home. Rockets pace is a little faster at home. You look at his last 13 home games, including last season, he's hitting nearly 4 threes on 9 attempts, 41% clip, scoring 28 points per game. So that's why it's minus 120 for him to get 22. But I don't hate that either. The Sixers, I mean, they've been good against point guards all season, and D'Anthony Melton is a good defender, don't get me wrong. But recently, with all those injuries, I mean, they've definitely lapsed on the wing. And in their last 7 shooting guards, which they've been average against all season, they're allowing the 6th most points per game to shooting guards. Jalen has done really well against Eastern Conference teams, even at low efficiency. And that's the whole thing with this Rockets team. It doesn't matter how many shots he misses. He has the green light. He can take as many step back threes as he wants. And we're not betting on his percentage here, folks, just for him to hit 3 threes.
Yeah, I mean, a percentage, though, which has been good at home. I mean, he's close to putting it all together, man. He needs another season, I think. But by the end of this season, I think he'll even look like worlds better than he does right now. He's just so like big and rangy and athletic and skilled, especially around the rim, that he's going to continue to get better. That 3-point shooting, as you said, it's just way better at home over the last couple of seasons. He's only been in the league 2 seasons, so since he's been in the league, and I think this is a good opportunity for him to get those to 3 threes tonight. I mean, 76ers defense has been good, but there's some holes in it and some opportunities definitely to take advantage of it for Jalen. So I'm going to go. This is going to be a pretty big theme here: the Suns and Mavs, a matchup of 2 guys who don't like each other. The last 2 NBA 2K cover athletes, Luka Doncic and Booker, but I'm talking about Booker right now. Over 41.5 points, rebounds, and assists. That's minus 113 on FanDuel. Look, he really doesn't like Luka. I mean, I don't think Luka loves him, but he's come into play against the Mavs, and in his last 5, dude, he's been crushing 36.6 points per game, 5 boards, 5.5 boards, 6.5 assists. That's all in 34.5 minutes with a 37% usage rate, second only to Giannis over that time span for highest usage in the league. They played Dallas earlier this season. CP3 was in that game. They won by 2. Book had 28 points, 4 boards, and 9 assists in that one with CP3 in the game. Got you over that 41.5 PRA right there. But you look at 24 games without CP3 since last season, 30 points a game, 5 boards, 7 assists in 35.5 minutes, which are all higher than when CP3 is in there, I assure you. Also gets you to that 42 PRA just on his averages over the last couple seasons in these types of situations without Chris Paul. So I think you have to feel pretty good about him coming out strong tonight in a game that I think he really wants to win every single time that he plays Dallas and Luka, especially the way that they've handled them in the playoffs. So this is a great opportunity for Book to get to just be involved all over the place in the offense and continue to be the focal point.
Yeah, it was crazy to see minus 120 for him to get 30 points. And I wanted to take the under. And I looked at the game log and saw that he hasn't gotten 30 against Dallas in, I think, 7 straight meetings in the regular season. But Chris Paul played in all of those, didn't he? And I mean, without CP3, the numbers are huge. Not just the scoring, but the peripheral stats is a huge spike for Booker. That's why we like the whole PRA here, the whole package. But I think he definitely can get to 30 points. The only time recently he hasn't is because they blew doors off. The Magic or something in their last game that they had no problem with. So he didn't play a full slate of minutes, but when he's been out there, I mean, he 50 points with like 5 missed field goals. He's just on fire right now. I'm going to take the over on Paolo Banchero. I guess I'm staying on my slight fade of the Bucks that hit hard on Friday. Anthony Davis, 44 points, and the Lakers won when they were plus 300 dogs. We had that. The Bucks now in their last 3 are giving up the most paint points in the league, 62 per game. They just gave up 20 plus to all of Kelly Oubre, Jalen McDaniels, and Terry Rozier. And Paolo Banchero is a lot more talented than all 3 of those guys offensively, like way more talented. He has a lot in his bag. He's coming off a 9-point game at Toronto on a back-to-back where the whole Magic starting lineup was kind of just yanked when they weren't doing much. So he played 27 minutes. But other than that, he's been great. You look at his November numbers. He's coming back from that ankle issue. He 22.5 points, 6 rebounds in 8 games, playing 36 minutes per game. Again, with the young players, home road splits, 23 points, 7 rebounds at home, and a 30% usage rate versus 20 and 5.5 on the road. So points at 18.5, or it's 19.5 at FanDuel without much better juice. But I think you just go points, rebounds here. You tack on 6 rebounds. It's a Bucks team that is not putting the ball in the basket that often. And a guy who's playing a lot of small forward, right? So he doesn't necessarily have to match up with Giannis that often. I mean, he can shift around. Bucks are allowing a healthy 23.5 points to small forwards in their last 7 games. That's 10th worst. So I don't think you're necessarily saying like Paolo's going to bring it against Giannis, but the fact that he's playing Giannis will certainly have his motivation factor up as a young player who wants to prove that he belongs on the stage.
Yeah, no, that adds. I'm always backing Paolo. Love that guy, and kind of said before the season, I don't know if it's going to pan out or not. Benny Matz is playing great. That he was the Rookie of the Year favorite. I mean, he's clearly the best rookie. He doesn't even look like a rookie at this point. I think it's an opportunity for him to make a statement for himself as well as a rookie. I mean, playing this team, the best defensive team in the league, but like you said, a little bit more vulnerable in that exact spot where you got a versatile guy like Paolo, who's definitely going to be quicker. Unless Giannis is guarding him, is definitely going to be quicker than the person that's playing defense on him. So I'm going to finish things off. As I said, the theme here was that Dallas Mavs game, and if you're going to take one end of the rivalry, that is Devin Booker, then you got to take Luka on the other side, expecting him to play pretty well tonight as well. Probably feel pretty good about Dallas as home dogs in this one as well, to potentially be able to at least hang and make us think about. I'm sorry, they're favorite as well tonight, so that line swung a bit as well. I don't care about the 3 points. I would still feel pretty good about a Mavs maybe victory there, but in this one for Luka, I'm looking at assists, I'm looking at threes, and to be honest with you, I'm going to try to get really bold here and say, if he gets under 2.5 threes tonight, that's even money. The assists over 8.5 is also even money. 2 things that I'm considering here. In his last 9, he has been averaging 9.2 assists. Just starting in that standpoint, he's only failed to get 9 in 2 of those games, including a couple games that he's playing against the Bucks, the Raptors, and the C's, a couple of teams that limit assists pretty well. So getting double digits there against the Suns in general. He definitely tries to score, but he's definitely dimed up enough to get there as well, averaging about 7 or so in his last 5 versus them in terms of the assists. Needing a couple more, obviously, but the 3-point shooting has also improved tremendously for the Mavs in the last roughly 5 games or so. Guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., who were shooting around 29% for them from deep, has increased that to about 50% over his last 5. Reggie Bullock has improved from like 26% all the way back up to about 33% from 3. So you're seeing some of the positive regression from these Mavs shooters, which is the focal point of their offense, is give Luka the ball in space and then get to the 3-point line with at least 3 guys that can pull from deep. Christian Wood continues to struggle mightily over his last 5 or 6, so not sure how well that's working out after a really good start to the season for him on this squad. But with the assists there, there. It just seems like an opportunity for him. If you're the Suns, you definitely want to be getting the ball out of his hands at this point. If you're looking at the 3-point shooting for him, his teammates, obviously that increases his likelihood to get those assists. The 3-point shooting, he's been fine. I mean, he's been putting up threes definitely, but he's only made more than 2 in 2 of his last 6 games, missing at the rate, shooting at the rate of about 29% from 3 in that time. He's not even putting up that many attempts. He's only put up more than 5 attempts 3 times in that span as well. So if you want to consider that, he's not shooting the 3 ball quite as much or quite as well necessarily in the last handful of games, this could be an opportunity with a really, really good Suns defense to limit him to less than 3 at even money. But I prefer the assist in this situation either way.
Yeah, I mean, I can't hate on any over when it comes to Luka. I would definitely want to combine his adjustments, and the Suns have done a great job. You said getting the ball out of his hands, but also forcing him into turnovers with I believe it's 20 turnovers in his last 4 regular season against them. Yeah. His line is set at 4.5 turnovers tonight with plus 120 on the over. I'm not taking that, but the 32.5 points, or you can go 40.5 points and assists. I think that kind of covers you because he's a guy who would not be surprised if he gets 35. He's basically averaging 35 at home. And as you mentioned,
yeah, no, I think that's a better play. I saw the assist at even money and felt good about it. But if you want to feel a little bit safer, yeah, the points added to it will always, and like you said, he can always make his in-game adjustments. Should I continue, and really in-play adjustments in terms of being shooting or passing, that's really just completely up to him at this point. He's the floor general. So that is all the time we have for you in this one, though. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. We're coming back to you each and every weekday this regular season. So until we see you next, happy betting.